Well, hello there, YouTube world, and a splendid day to you too. Uh, in a very traditional uh, Florida Keys fashion. So today we're gonna try and do something new. Most people never even know that this exists. This is a very typical thing that people miss in Florida Keys. They're so set on the scuba diving or snorkeling or beaches that they tend to miss all the little gems that are in this community. So this is the Botanical State Park. Um, it's, believe it or not, it's actually kind of pain in the ass to find this stuff, and the reason for that is that Google Maps doesn't really know what to make of it. It just denotes a very general zone of this area. It actually goes north. There's also a crocodile lake, which I'm gonna try and see. And it looks like this is paved. Look at that. They got the little placards and everything like that. Talks about what those are and what they do. Florida Keys is a very interesting environment because it's located in essentially subtropics. I think the parallel for it is probably, and don't quote me on that, maybe like 25 degrees latitude or something like that. So it is a lot closer to equator than where I live in Florida. And so you start getting all sorts of really interesting plants in here. My favorite ones, and I hope to see them on the strip, are iron trees. Here's one right behind me. I like when they get really, really big. They're like, whoa, look at that. Scared off the spider. That's a banana spider over there. I've given him a fairly rude awakening. So yeah, it looks like my plans for the day of being able to fly my drone are very shut, but oh, look at this. Wild coffee. Although, oh, I guess it does look like coffee. Look at this. How cool is this? Oh, there's one of those iron trees. I like how like all the little bark flops off of it. It kind of looks like malnutrition birch tree, because like birch has this really hard birch bark, and iron tree is very, very thin, almost like layers of onion or something like that. Very gentle. So it looks like they have benches for those of you with mobility issues. But then, you could also come here on a mobility scooter, I would think. There's another one, black bead. Interesting. I've been told by the park ranger over in John Pennycamp that this hike is about 2 miles or something like this. I hope it's not 2 miles of paved, because it kind of takes away from the whole experience a little bit, I think. Although some of you that are seeking creature comfort might find one right over there. There's a bathroom, and it looks like there's a pavilion right behind me in that little nook over there. Look at this wind. Look at this wind. It's very unfortunate. Oh, mulberry. Ardisia escalionis. Of course. leave it to the Indians to smoke just about everything, and this is a pure example of taking advantage of the nature. But yeah, Florida Keys has really interesting trees, especially once you get down even further south to Key West area, which, by the way, I am heading to tomorrow, I believe. And believe it or not, I was able to actually find me a campground right in Key West. It is expensive, but honestly, if you do the math between going to and from, back and forth, yeah, about that. Oh, here's one. So this morning I woke up to a very unfortunate sight. I looked outside my window in my campground, and this spot was empty, and that spot was empty. And you might wonder, well, what's the Bahama Strombark? Name of the tree is apparently tea made from bark, reportedly. So people used to make tea out of this. What people do is they reserve campgrounds, and then they don't come. And so people that are looking to pay and camp for the night have nowhere to stay. And you show up to the campgrounds, and that's true all across. Oh my goodness, it is true everywhere. Doesn't matter where that is, it is true everywhere. They just don't come. So for example, if somebody needs to reserve something for the weekend, they'll just reserve it for the week, entire week, because majority of the campgrounds have a 14-day limit, which is a huge contributor. Like in Florida, for example, depending on the season, when the snowbirds come and everything, which, by the way, if you're a snowbird, shame on you. Not for being a snowbird, but for taking our campsites and just camping there. Like, you pull up and they just have everything, like their entire life just set out on the lawn and everything like that. Anyways, this is black ironwood. Ooh, it talks about how the ironwood here, which is this tree over there with like yellow fungi looking things, it says it can weigh as much as 88 pounds per cubic foot. So this is actually a very dense tree. Density is a kind of interesting beast. The best example of that is if you look at something like a scuba diving weight, right? You never picture something so small weighing so heavy, and this is a perfect example. Just look at this tree. Well, I'm not gonna walk there because I don't know what's over here, but if you see how dense this tree is over there, I'm sure there's a use for it somewhere, somehow. So back to the trail. The trail is 2.1 miles long. Rough velvet seed. Species occur from Brazil to Central Florida. Interesting. Doesn't look all that strong to me. Huh. Here you see some more of that iron tree over there. Look how beautiful it is. It just has a very, oh my goodness, I wish I could have those where I live like that, because I've been able to more or less adopt sea grapes, which are another traditional tree that you see out here in the Keys. They have like really big leaves, like bigger than my hand stretched out. and I've planted them, and they've actually done pretty good. Unfortunately, Hurricane Irma hasn't been too kind to the biggest one, so it died, and then it took probably a year to start coming back. So now I have the dead sticks, and then I have the new growth, and I have multiples of those planted. Look at this. Look how beautiful. Look at that. So red, so... Oh my goodness. And I hope the camera is doing this justice. If you look with the sun glistening off of it, look how pretty that is. Wow. Yeah, this is very typical for the Keys. This sort of landscape that you see. It's a bunch of really young, very thin sort of tree growth, and part of it is because obviously Keys are a bit of a hurricane alley area, so it's very common for, you know, islands to be wiped in the hurricane. Pardon that, as a matter of fact, let me point you down. This is what Florida Keys is based on. It's based on that coral. So the soil is really not that good, and so trees just topple over. And this is up here is a perfect example of that. If you look for their root system is actually sprawling, trying to grab onto whatever it can, and what they do is they just topple over. But that being said, when they do fall, it gives rise to all the little seedlings, all the little trees that previously didn't have an opportunity to grow. And that's why they grow so fast, you know, after the hurricane. As a matter of fact, one of the places we're going to is my beloved Lone Key State Park on the Strip. My sister and I have been there a year after the hurricane, so this up here would be 2 full years after Hurricane Irma. And so it would be very interesting to see, because the last time I was out there, everything was dead. Everything, and I mean, like, it was just completely wiped. So it would be really interesting to see what came of it. Look at that. You know, it's such a really bizarre thing. Just within the scope of, here, let me pan this way, just within the scope of this one little area, take a look at the leaves which are on the trees. You got the weird heart looking ones, you got the elongated ones, right? You got the teardroppy sort of leaves, you got the droopy leaves, you got viney sort of leaves, you got really broad, almost like dinner plate leaves, right? And then you pan around this way. What? Look at this thing. No, I'm serious. This is an actual leaf. Look at it. Look how cool that looks. Now, I'm tempted to call it a castor tree. The tree which is used to make castor oil and ricin poison and everything like that. But I don't know if that's it indeed. But I've never seen them this thick, because they're usually thinner. Trees are really important. You know, if you ever make a decision to buy yourself property in Florida, if you notice where I am right now, it's very shady. It's obviously so much cooler, and just being able to shelter from the wind as well. You know, like, there's wind blowing in my face from the direction of the ocean, which is over there ahead of us. So this is like a tunnel effect. But if I didn't have any trees, I'd be I'd be in for a world of trouble. That's for sure. And another thing, here, let me get out of the sun. You're gonna notice something interesting about trees up here. See how they all bend? Okay, what tree is doing, it's doing its best to find light. So it kind of navigates, and more than likely it had to turn like this because there was something else standing there. And this up here is another type. Look at this. This is almost like an ornamental type tree. It's called a crabwood, member of the spruce family. Good for timber. And apparently, depending on the region, they also make oil out of it. White stopper. It says it sometimes releases odor. Musky or skunky. Actually, believe it or not, just by standing here, and they have no idea why it's doing that, but just by standing here, I do feel, I do smell it. It's not a bad, horribly bad smell, but it's a smell that you could still smell. Rough velvet seed. If you pay attention, a lot of the trees don't have anything on the bottom, and the reason for that is they don't want to be wasting energy trying to even bother growing anything on the lower branches. As tree grows, it just kind of seeks light and says, all right, I'm just gonna go where the light is. This must have been some sort of a plantation way back when. It says habitat restoration area. Oh, look at that. The moon is still out. Really interesting. Ooh. I don't know if the trail goes there, or if this is just my imagination. Oh, no, I see an arrow. Yeah, one thing I've noticed, there's really no demarcation of where you're supposed to go, which I actually kind of like, because you know, it's a bit of an adventure, if you want to call it that. But if you notice, we've gone away with the asphalt. So if you are on a mobility scooter or something like that, you're gonna have to take the short loop. Alright, now this up here is all hard coral. All of it, and if you look really careful, you're gonna see fossilized remains of this, for example, used to be a fan coral in there. Oh, and just like that, we're back to the shade. You know what's really bizarre? Since I'm here, what's really bizarre is that this being the Keys, where every single square inch of land is ever so valuable, despite the hurricanes, despite perpetual devastation and everything like that. they have chosen to preserve all of this land. Look at that. Oh, it would be really cool to kayak over there. I wonder if it's even possible. Look at this. You know, Keys actually have, I don't know how many islands. You know, the area generally found between Naples and Key Largo is called 10,000 islands. I wouldn't be surprised if there's 10,000 islands or more all through the Keys as well. So much of it is inaccessible. Just absolutely. Oh, look at this. Interesting looking leaf structure. Yeah, so much of it is absolutely inaccessible. And so, if you have a boat, which renting one in the Keys is extremely expensive, you could actually explore the Keys for what they are. So one thing that my family and I does, and you've probably seen videos on my channel in years past, we grab our kayaks and just start floating in one giant flotilla to explore the areas beyond the yonder. And time again we find something new. You know, Keys is such an interesting place, especially to somebody that doesn't live in Florida. You have the sunrises on one side, you have the sunsets on another side. The temperature and weather and everything else changes here so drastically, so much, all the time. Like today, for example, I woke up and it was 71 degrees. I wouldn't be surprised if come 12 o'clock it's like in the high 90s. Because that's what it was yesterday. But yes, this is oh, okay, so we are at the halfway point. Half loop that away. At least there's a sign. There must have been something here, like a campground or something, because I just don't see how this area would have developed a road network and everything. See this? I know right behind me, on the other side of the trees where I park my RV, way back in the day, eons ago, they used to have a port. So maybe this had something to do with it. Whew. You know, we're getting closer and closer to the coastline here, and you could just feel it in your body. All the wind. Oh my goodness. See this? Notice the difference. How much windier it is. And another thing you gotta see is the trees are more skimpy. And that's because during hurricanes, all this stuff is the first to be hit by the waves and the weather elements and everything. Ooh, this is interesting. I don't know what this is. I wonder if I could. There's a bunch of rocks over there. Little passageways and stuff. So my guess is this floods. Ooh. Look at this. Yeah, my guess is this floods tidally, more or less. And it has like a little of a safarian vibe to it. Look at that. This would be a good kind of segue. Talk about the trees that are out here. Unfortunately, the sun is... you start seeing mangrove trees. That's right, mangroves. Florida has 3 kinds of mangroves. This behind me are probably white. The red ones have roots in the ground and they're kind of, they look like they're walking. The black ones are the ones that are sticking out like little witch fingers. And the white ones are further up on the land. They tolerate water, but not too excited about it. And here, if you look through the trees over there, there's a bunch of rock. Really cool place. You know, I like this place. I'm gonna take my family. Next time we're out in the Keys, I'll take him here. Because we've already walked everything in John Penny Camp. This is really interesting. Very, very picturesque. Has like a very jungly vibe to it. Mind you that although I'm wearing flip-flops and seemingly carelessly walk through all of this, I do have my eyes peeled. This is prime. Oh, look at that, there's an egret. There's a white bird straight ahead. This is a prime territory for a species of animal that is known only to inhabit one part of Florida and one part of the United States, which is the crocodile. Florida has crocodiles and alligators. Look at this. And again, no sign. Where you're supposed to go, nobody knows. But this is pretty cool. You know what, let's go this way a little bit. So yeah, the black mangroves which I was talking about, here you could see them like sticks. And this whole area actually floods. Oh, no, you can't go there. It looks like the other pole broke off, but they didn't bother fixing this. But just to kind of get you an idea of what, you know what, screw this. I'm a rule breaker today. Since I can't fly my drone, they got some sort of vine and a little snail that's over there. See this? So yes, there is American crocodile in this neck of the woods. Obviously they can't compare with the salties that you could find in Australia, down under, or the Nile crocodiles, which grow to gargantuous size. But nonetheless, you could find them here. There's something like 20 plus species of crocodilians prevalent through just about anywhere where there's tropics. There's all sorts of places where you'd never think that there would be alligators and crocodiles, but they have them. Well, actually crocodiles, sorry. Alligators are mainly found in the United States. Everywhere else receives crocodilians. All of this, I believe, that's white mangroves, and you could actually see by the leaves. See this? And this is a bad example, and more than likely it's a bad example of a camera as well. But when I volunteer with the kids, one thing I have them do is lick the leaves, because you can actually taste salt crystals, especially this close to the ocean. Oh. Let's look at this. You can actually see water pockets in places, and then the land is very mucky and mushy and whooshy. And so if you pay close enough attention, there's holes all scattered through this. And at the right time of day, there's fiddler crabs and mangrove crabs that come out, and this whole land comes alive. So yes, believe it or not, I am still in that same botanical garden. This place is just a gift that keeps on giving, especially if you're a naturalist. We've crisscrossed a couple of places. I pointed this out on the camera where there's been some red mangroves. Here you could see the black mangroves. See them sticking out like this? And their leaves are different. Their leaves are more elongated. See those over there? And then behind those, even further, there's red mangroves. I was hoping to find some big ones, but we're unfortunately too far from the water. But nonetheless, this is still interesting to kind of see. And another component of this is that in a very big sort of contrast to where I live in Florida, we have prevalence of red mangroves. In places like Cockroach Bay, E.J. Simmons Park, all through Tampa Bay region. Here, it's exactly the opposite. And the reason why is because this being up on the ground a little bit, which is what the keys are, you're gonna find strictly red mangroves, strictly further out where the water is. Oh, look at this. I believe that's a night fisher, kingfisher, or something fisher, rather than other. This tells us that we're not allowed to walk further, and this tells us is that we're about to get our feet dirty. There's the moon again. One thing I would advise you guys is when hiking out here, and that's kind of the reason why I brought my flip-flops, because you never know, you get this. I've made enough mistakes in my life walking bare feet and slicing my feet against the all sorts of unmentionables in the mangrove territory. So I'm just walking with my feet. Woo! The water is refreshing, let's put it that way. So yes, you're not gonna find me walking bare feet in the water anymore. I'm guessing today we'll have a high tide. Makes it for an interesting adventure, that's for sure. Man, you could actually see how clear the water is, particularly because it's relatively shallow. So depending on the time of day and the changes in tides, this is either dry or this is wet like it is right now. This reminds me of a trail in Layton, the Long Key State Park. Whoa! There's a brown heron over there. It's the same kind of deal where you have to navigate through the same kind of exercise. Oh, here we are. Finally, I have something to show you. So if you notice, this kind of mangrove looks completely different from anything that we've seen before. Now this over here is called the red mangrove, and the reason why it's red is because its roots are red in color. When they're wet, you can see how red they get. And this tree is very interesting. If you pay attention to this one bush, see how it kind of stretches out and stretches out and stretches out. The actual stem of the tree is straight ahead. So it's not uncommon for this tree in like a century or so to occupy a city block. And what it does is it walks and then it finds suitable ground and it gives itself sort of like a little brother or sister. And when you put enough of those mangroves side by side like that, they start capturing all sorts of debris and litter and things like that, and eventually give birth to an island. And if you notice, even the leaves are different. And just like this, you can see how quickly we've gone from one type of habitat to another one. Because here, right behind me, those are white mangroves. Nice and dry, seasonally flooded. Weird looking bugs. Seasonally flooded or tidally flooded. You start seeing vines like this. Another thing you're gonna have to be careful about on trails like this is the wasps. It is not uncommon to see ground wasps on those trails. So if you come across a nest, certainly keep your distance. That's right. It's never this easy. This is a clear example of the trail less traveled kind of deal. At some point in the past, somebody has groomed it, trimmed it, maintained it. Now the nature is taking over. So you're gonna have to do some navigating a little bit. Thankfully, I haven't seen anything with spikes yet. Look at this. Really interesting. I'm glad that I stopped by. I saw the sign for years and years and years, but you know, when you're in the Keys, you get too fixated on, you know, either rushing to Key West and doing stuff over there, or hitting the beach, or, you know, like scuba diving or something. You don't really enjoy the Keys for what the Keys are. You get like a little glimpse of it at your fancy schmancy 5-star hotel, but there's so much more to the Keys, and this is just a perfect example. You know, take in probably, what is it, we're at like an hour, so taking like a couple of hours out of your time to visit a place like this isn't going to make or break your vacation schedule, but it will most definitely entirely make it so much more memorable. Now, John Pennekamp has a hiking trail, which you could see in some of my previous videos. It has actually two hiking trails. One is off by Cannon Beach. Nice short trail, probably like half a mile, maybe a quarter of a mile, that eventually leads you to... Look at this cool thing. That eventually leads you to some sort of orchard. And at the right time of year, you could find things like avocados and mangoes in there. And I think also lime, if I'm not mistaken. And the other trail actually gets you to the campground. So in theory, if you're camping at John Penny Camp, you could take the trail, and it will lead you straight to Cannon Beach, more or less, and then you just hop on the other one. See? Even for things like that, you don't have to take your car from the campground. Just do a little bit of walking. Never hurts. Now see, this is what I was talking about. This is like a poor man's birch tree. It peels exactly like a birch, but it's very paper thin. Look at it. So you get the green and the orange hues in there. This is a really interesting tree. Must be getting closer to civilization. There's more and more signs that say trail is closed, do not enter, and service vehicles only, and also please stay on marked trails signs. Look at this. Look how interesting. You get all those little berries here and droopy looking leaves in the background. This would be like a photographer's paradise. Yeah, if you have a camera with you, feel free to take it. Obviously don't fall in the water. Despite having a DSLR, I'm really not much into photography. I don't know why, just never got into it all that much. I got a few lenses, just not my thing. You know, they say that picture tells 1,000 words, but a moving picture tells 1,000 words. You know, to be able to capture memorable moments, you know, like trees swaying in the wind and stuff like that. And you know, especially nowadays with technology moving at the speed of light, you don't even need a fancy GoPro. You don't need a fancy DSLR. All that you really need is your phone, which some phones have even the capability of filming in 4K these days. And also, if you want to super stabilize the shot, you get yourself a phone gimbal for like $50. I choose to use a GoPro and a waterproof gimbal because, you know, I'm more outdoorsy than most people. So, which, by the way, the way sequencing is with my videos, more than likely, if you look back through some of my videos, more specifically to the video in Pisgah National Forest, more specifically a video of the sliding rock, or in which the sliding rock is featured. There was this crazy girl, I kid you not. I mean, this is literally the way our society is headed. She was live streaming to Instagram or something like that on her phone while going down a water slide, you know, down the ramp and everything like that, on a sliding rock, in her bikini, got dunked in the, in the churning water. Oh, look at that, how pretty. Got dunked in the churning water on the bottom, and nearly lost her phone in progress. That's how desperate people are to share their lives. I share a lot about who I am and what I do, but honestly, you will never see me with a phone going down the rocky water slide. Because even if the phone survives, if you lose the phone in the water, that's it. You're not gonna find it. At least with a GoPro, you attach a floating mount to it. Yeah, this is one of the tidal channels that you see in the back. Actually, this is a good indicator of just how high we are out of the water, because sea level is right there. And that's the reason why at this high, whoa, look at this, really pretty. That's why this high in elevation, that's why you see all the upland species of trees. This is really cool. I need to look up on Google Maps to see what this water body is, whether it actually connects to anything. I'm not gonna go down there, but you get the point. Gotta be careful going through the rocks, especially this time of year. A lot of the snakes, if there's any snakes on the islands, they're in the hibernation mode, and they're typically scooter-putting around the rocks at this point in the season. So you don't want to stumble against a pygmy rattlesnake or eastern diamond rattlesnake or moccasin or anything of that sort. But nonetheless, you still get very pretty. Oh my goodness. How cool is this? I mean, do you seriously, what? Oh, and it's actually deep. I wonder if, and this is just me going out on a limb, I wonder if it's possible to jump from here in the water and not kill yourself. Because see how it goes into the deep over there? Oh, there's a dragonfly and a couple of fish that are hunting after it. Interesting. How interesting is this? Wow. This is truly something, isn't it? Alright, let's go further. We got things to do and places to see. So, in case you're wondering where we are, territorially speaking, we are north in Key Largo, area where most people never go. Because most people make the turn on the highway to take Highway 1. And actually, I don't know if you ever paid attention, those of you that my camera even recording? Yeah, it is. Don't want to be talking to myself like an idiot. The camera not recording. Look at this. Wow. Unfortunately, sun is off in there, but there's a cliff. Oh, how cool it would be to jump from the cliff into the water. Oh, you know what this is? I think I know what this is. This used to be a shipping port way back when, which I've mentioned previously. So I think this is one of the shipping channels. That's the reason why it's so deep. But yeah, I have to research some of the history of this place just to see. And just like that, we're moving further away from the lagoon. Maybe this was a quarry, because they do mine fill in the Keys for construction and everything like that. I don't know, either way I have to do some research and see. Ooh, this is very Key Westish of Key Largo. You see a lot of this on the eastern coast, primarily in places like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, what's in between there, Boynton Beach, Delray Beach, all them places, especially out in Key West. This jungly sort of feel. How cool is this? If you've never been to Key West, this sort of jungly looking feel is found in a lot of the mom and pop restaurants, because what they do is they build restaurants all in between the trees. And there's places in Key West where you sit. By the way, if you go to Key West, don't bother with the main stretch. There's plenty of absolutely spectacular places where, you know, they're just like off the beaten path a little bit. They serve equally amazing food, and you get to sit in between all this jungly sort of field with roosters flying about and jumping about, the whole polydactyl cat stuff. And things like that. And the trees, the jungly sort of trees over there, are massive, absolutely massive. They're probably, I would say, like up to 8 feet wide, if I had to guess. Some of them maybe even 15-20 feet. Not in diameter, but wide. So once I get to Key West, I'm gonna show you guys some of it. That way you'll see what I'm talking about. Pardon our clearance, you will come on this trail are part of recent restoration project. Once planned housing develop. Oh, that's what it is. Housing development. I guess that explains all this infrastructure, because I just don't see how the State Botanical Park would create all of this. So the Arc was the entrance to a fancy schmancy subdivision. They have some maps and things of that nature. Oh, look at this. We got some cars. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. So thank you for coming along on this little hiking trip. I'm gonna go ahead and mosey down the key chain. That was bizarre. Hey, at least more power too, right? So the goal now is to take this road further north. There's the other entrance to Key Largo. If you've ever taken Highway 1, there's a sign in there that says most people miss the sign. Yeah, there's a sign over there that says, if the light is flashing, take the something sound. And that's what that was. This road up here takes you to a toll area where you have to pay the entrance fee to actually get into the Keys. Naturally, I would think most people would elect not to pay toll to get into the Keys, but for some odd reason, there you go. So, but the goal is to actually mosey down the road just to see what's out there. You know, my goal was to actually fly a drone. Unfortunately, how windy it is, not gonna happen. But I'm gonna go there anyways.